Hi, I'm Euan.
And I'm Sarah.
And this is
Popcorn and Cumin, a transatlantic dive into film and media.
With a healthy side of unrelated nonsense.
Hello and welcome back to Popcorn and Cumin.
Season 2.
We have returned after our lovely summer holiday.
Yeah, and we actually had a holiday. We were jet-setting all around, well, North America. I was going to say the world, but it was a small portion of the world, but a large portion of North America.
The East Coast of the United States.
Not just the East Coast. We were also in the Midwest.
Oh, that's true, in the Midwest.
The dizzy heights of Cheyenne, Wisconsin.
But now we are back in time for
spooky season.
Ooh.
Back where it all began. About a year ago from when you're hearing this, me and Sarah sat down and our long joked about podcast idea, we decided we're just going to record something. And we recorded probably for about 2 hours. And we just talked about a bunch of movies that we'd watched recently, which because it's spooky season, we're all Halloween focused. And forever be it known that the start of a Popcorn and Cumin season will be spooky season.
Well, spooky season is the best time to watch movies.
Yeah, it's the only time we're allowed to watch horror movies, so...
It's true. And so for the start of this spooky season, we started with a horror movie, which is very unusual for me.
Although back in your edgy phase as a teenager, you said you used to watch horror movies all the time, but you've since kind of whipped in the other direction and now say, I never watch horror movies ever.
Yeah. It's true, but I didn't find this to be quite scary.
Now, Sarah, I'm going to ask you an important question. What is this?
Alien. I think I don't find... The ones that I would watch when I was younger and edgy, it was always like, it was The Grudge or The Ring or The Nun. No. No, The Orphan. So it was always the ghostly, scary characters are always some form of human, usually human women. But I think I just don't find like alien-like creatures or monster movies that scary.
Would you say you're more scared by like jump scares, or like for me when horror movies have the biggest impact on me, or it doesn't have to necessarily be a horror movie, but it's when it's unsettling. It doesn't necessarily have to be because it's, particularly gory or there's like jump scares that are getting my adrenaline up and I'm on the edge of my seat wondering when something's going to be like thrust onto the screen that's going to make me react. But there are certain instances where I've seen, so I think The Shining's like a good example where you like watch it and then you come away from it and you're kind of a bit like, ugh.
Yeah. I really liked that one though. I think I do get scared at jump scares, but the horror movies that I say no to the most, I say no thank you, are like Midsummer, and I mean it's not even a horror movie, but like Joker. It's just ones that I find the most disturbing. I think are more of the no thank yous than the scary.
Yeah, I mean, Midsummer is another example of one that I would put firmly in the unsettling category.
I hate that movie.
And it wasn't even so much because there are some quite gory moments in the movie, but I feel like even if those were removed, just the general kind of...
Yeah, those were the most unsettling parts for me.
Yeah.
But no, I do agree about the general...
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, I'm kind of a weird one with gore because I find gore that's intentionally made to be bloody. So we talk about The Boys, that's a show we both watch, and the violence in that is very exaggerated, with blood comes spilling out, it's shooting out everywhere.
People are constantly, if somebody even lightly hits any kind of surface, they're just going to explode. That's just the way it is.
And I have basically no reaction to that because it just seems so over the top. And then most horror movies are probably somewhere more in the middle, but where I actually find quite hard to watch are scenes in medical dramas where it's like they're making incisions into the body and then blood is kind of spilling out, or you might see some, intestines when they're doing some surgery. I find that quite hard to stomach. Like that actually gets my kind of, my stomach going a little bit. I find that quite difficult to watch.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Anything that's sort of remotely medical, anything that involves like snipping or...
So what about like Silence of the Lambs, when there's people's faces being cut off? Or does it not show that part?
It doesn't really show it.
Does it have to be in a medical setting or any kind of like
I don't
dissection?
think so. You don't actually see that. I think that might make you feel like a little bit unsettled.
Yeah.
I mean, the scene in that, spoiler for Silence of the Lambs, at one point he like is like wearing someone's face and it takes you by surprise. But I don't think you see him cut the thing off and then see the
like Dwight in
unfaced
The
head.
Office.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. That's the point of reference, really, if you haven't seen Silence of the Lambs, because that's what that reference is. Yeah. So before we go into our grand discussion of Alien, which is timely because this year, 2024, a new Alien movie has been released. By the time you're listening to this, it will have already come out and probably left cinemas already, but perhaps you went to see it, or...
Yeah. So maybe you're listening to this after watching Alien Romulus. Maybe after listening to this, you'll be inspired to watch more Alien movies. Mm-hmm. I know I might be. Maybe.
Yeah, so we're speaking as people who have not seen Alien Romulus at this point. I have seen Alien, Aliens, and Alien Covenant. And I have a general sort of knowledge of the other movies that I haven't seen. Sarah has just seen Alien.
For the first time.
Yeah, she was in for a real treat when we decided to do this because she got to see a seminal work of science fiction and horror.
Yippee!
Yeah. So before we go into our discussion, we're going to do our returning segment, which is cross-border factoids. I have one in particular that's inspired by our recent trip to the US.
Oh boy.
So we can look forward to that. Sarah, do you want to lead off with one?
Well, sure. Now, we've gotten to the point where I now cannot remember which differences I have previously done. So, and, I'm too lazy to go back and look at every episode.
Don't say that.
We probably should have been writing them down. But here we are. We're not going to do that. We're just going to keep guessing. So if you've already heard this, well, then you'll get the joy of hearing it again. In the US, we keep our eggs in the refrigerator. Or as some Midwesterners might say, the refrigerator. In the UK, they keep their eggs not in the refrigerator. Just out on the counter, regular temperature, room temperature. That's where the eggs sit.
And they're all the better for it.
Now, well, okay, listen.
Here we go.
I'm putting my glasses on because it's that serious. This difference actually has a reason for it. So in the US, eggs are washed with soap and hot water to get rid of bacteria and prevent like salmonella and all that kind of stuff. But this washing process removes the cuticle, so this outer part of the egg.
Your cuticles are like the skin by your fingernails, isn't it?
Yeah, so I guess eggs have that too.
Yeah.
And so it removes this protective layer, which then means that the eggs have to be refrigerated to prevent bacteria and stuff from growing. In the UK, they do not wash their eggs, but they do, well, in Europe, which, now the UK is not part of the European Union, but I think the UK would still do this. They vaccinate their chickens so that the chickens don't have salmonella, or I'm not sure how the salmonella is passed on then to the eggs, but that's supposed to prevent then the bacteria. So then they do not wash their eggs, which means that the cuticle is still there, and it means that the eggs do not need to be refrigerated. So there you have it.
Is vaccinating chickens in the US deemed unconstitutional?
No comment. Yeah, I'm not really sure why they don't vaccinate chickens, or maybe some places do, but it's not like required of all of the, what is it, USDA, like the...
Yeah, probably the Constitution doesn't affect chickens, maybe. Or maybe there's a separate
to
one.
me, it seems like washing the eggs would be a more sure method. Because I feel like even if you don't know every like possible disease the chicken's going to have that you could vaccinate them for.
But then this comes into another egg/chicken scenario where do you wash chicken before you cook it?
Do you wash... Oh... I thought you were going to like, do you give the chicken a bath before they lay their eggs? No, you do not wash raw chicken. That is a fact. You can look it up. Washing raw chicken does not actually really prevent bacteria on it, and it can spread the raw chicken juices and stuff to your sink, to your counters, because of the splash zone. I mean, you can look it up on the interwebs, and it will tell you that you should not wash your raw chicken before cooking it.
Yeah, well...
You can give your chickens a bath if you want, though.
Yeah, that's probably encouraged, actually. You
yeah.
don't want real stinky chickens.
No.
Yeah. It is interesting interesting because we have to our eggs last a long time without having to be refrigerated, whereas in the US a lot of other food lasts a long time because it's pumped full of chemicals and preservatives and everything, whereas that doesn't really happen in the UK. So bread goes
How
off
does this
quicker.
relate to the
It's just a difference,
eggs?
because your eggs wouldn't last outside of the fridge.
No, I don't think it's a matter of how long they last. I think it's a matter of preventing bacteria from. But okay.
Yeah, but when food spoils, it's bacteria.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know how long it is acceptable to keep eggs. Like, I don't know what the sign is that an egg has gone bad. I know you can put it in water, and then if it floats, it means one thing, and if it sinks, it means one of those means that your egg has gone bad.
I think it's sinking is good.
Sinking is good?
Because I think if it floats, it's because the bacteria has created oxygen or something in it, which makes it float.
Well, I don't think I've ever really thrown eggs out.
I've never wasted an egg.
So I've probably eaten a few eggs that have gone off in my lifetime.
Like those black eggs from China or Malaysia. I can't remember the 100-year eggs or something they're called.
1,000-year years?
1,000 years.
Million-year eggs? Something like that. Yeah. We've heard mixed reviews about 1,000-year eggs. 100.
Well, I've heard one good review, and most of the other reviews are bad. So
yeah, well, it probably depends if you're kind of used to eating them.
Would you try one, Sarah?
Probably. Well, maybe I would take one bite.
I'm very open-minded, but I don't think I would try it, to be honest.
But they're not literally 1,000 years old.
Yeah, but even if a piece of chicken, for example, or like a vegetable, if it's gone moldy. Or whatever, it's spoiled. It doesn't matter if it's 1,000 years old or it's 1 year old. I still don't want to eat it.
What about blue cheese?
Well, I don't like that either.
Well, that's true. I do. Okay, well, anyway, moving along.
Yeah, so my difference is inspired by our recent trip to Boston, Massachusetts, the site, or one of the sites of the Revolutionary War in the 1700s, which was fought between the British Empire and the traitorous US states.
For the record, I think this is a silly difference, what he is about to say.
So, one of the key sort of powder kegs that starts the US Revolution, pre-Tea Party, pre-Boston Tea Party. Well, actually, I'm not sure if it was pre-Boston Tea Party. I've forgotten that part of the chronology.
On the Freedom Trail, it was pre.
Yeah, but the Freedom Trail is not in chronological order. It's just
not.
in geographical order, unfortunately, which is harder for me to, wrap my head around it now and trying to recollect it to you all. One of the powder kegs that starts the feeling of discontent, or at least that helps keep the feeling of discontent around the British presence in the colonies as they were at the time, is there's a thing called the Boston Massacre, where a couple of Bostonians are killed by British troops, and this was deemed, this was awful, and people got really angry at the British. They're like, no, they're killing our people. We need to get these British out of here. But what actually happened? Yeah, so this is referred to as the massacre. Now, I'm not sure on what the actual definition of massacre is and how many people, all life is precious, and any life is a tragedy to be lost, especially in circumstances that are deemed unnecessary. But only 5 people were killed, which, when you say massacre, you maybe would be thinking there'd be more than 5 people, is my guess. However, the British soldiers actually were protecting themselves because they were about to be torn apart by a mob. There's the sort of lead up to this, I believe, was a British soldier was trying to get his hair cut, and then someone was trying to shake him down for some money, and he was like, no. And then probably, I don't know, I can't do the Bostonian accent of that time because I think they would sound like they were from Denver in the UK. However, they said, that guy, he's not paying that little boy for the money he owes for the haircut. And then a big mob formed, and then they, one thing led to another. And then the British soldiers ended up firing into the crowds as a sort of a warning. But then I think some people were killed, unfortunately.
As a warning, they shot directly at people.
Well, at the time they had, the British soldiers could load their rifles pretty quickly, but they couldn't fire that quickly, so...
But did you see, now, at the site of the Boston Massacre, we saw on our map little X's where the people had been shot.
Perished.
And some of them were kind of far away from the scene of the crime, which means that they were likely shot when running away.
Or running towards them with a big knife or something. Who knows? We don't have
Okay.
the DNA evidence.
No, it is possible. Yeah, well, I think it was in retaliation. But what is the UK-US difference here? This is what I don't understand.
That in the US, it was reported as being an awful thing that the British soldiers attacked the Boston civilians, but in the UK, they would say it was in self-defense.
Okay.
We
so
would
your
refer to it as a Boston
UK-US
Massacre.
difference is like from that
Yeah, the
time.
1700s. It's fine.
Because now
That's what you call a classic difference.
Now it is in America taught that it was used basically as propaganda to fuel the anger at the British.
Yeah, future, or at the time, not at the time future, but now very much in the past, President John Adams actually defended the British soldiers in a court because the people in Boston wanted them to basically be murdered without a trial, and he was like, no
fair trial.
Yeah, everyone should have a right to a fair trial. Everyone should have representation before the law, and that's the type of principles that founded a great country like the US, and those aren't going anywhere. At least we hope.
Yeah, well. Apparently the definition of a massacre is something like attacking unarmed, defenseless people, which wouldn't necessarily fit the angry mob of people throwing rocks and stuff at them. But, I mean, rocks versus guns. I don't know. I was obviously called a massacre just to throw fuel on the fire.
They probably had some guns. It's America. So
it wasn't America.
Well, I think it was. It was the colonies of America.
There was no, but it was. We were still under the British rule.
Yeah, I suppose it was New England.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I am ashamed of you and your.
I'm just trying
Scottish
to educate everyone.
Roots being pro redcoat. What is this?
Well, I think at the time we were as we are today, united under one flag. Now maybe that's unfortunate. Maybe it isn't.
All right. Well, there are your kind of UK-US differences spanning several centuries.
Yeah.
There you go. Shall we move on now to the meat of the episode?
Yeah, so just for anyone who hasn't seen Alien yet, if you're thinking you have to turn away, or turn off rather, turning away from whatever you're listening to won't have the desired impact, I think.
Plug your ears.
Yeah, we're going to sort of just set up the premise of the movie, and I'll probably ask Sarah some questions as she had not seen it before and see how much she retained, and then we'll move on to a spoiler section. But at the end of the day, Alien did come out in 1979, so if you're going to be that upset about spoilers from it, I think you're in a world of pain.
But we'll start with a little bit of spoiler-free, shall we?
Okay, Sarah. So, Alien is a movie that's set in deep space. It's set in the future from today. Humans have begun to colonize the rest of the solar systems, not just our solar system, the ones far-reaching out there, ones that we haven't yet discovered. Clearly, interstellar space travel is possible. As the movie starts, we are introduced to the crew of the Nostromo, who are in cryogenic sleep. So they've been, because of how long space travel takes, they're put to sleep to keep themselves alive for the duration of the voyage. And they are returning to Earth from a mission. Now, Sarah, what is the Nostromo? What's its original purpose? Like, what are they trying to do?
It's something boring. It's like, are they mining?
It is something to do with mining, so I'll give you a point there.
Do I need to know what they're mining? They're just like a mining company. Oh, and then some people on the ship are part of like the company in kind of a corporate way or something, and then some of them are more the just the workers,
the blue collars. Yeah, so the characters you're referring to are Parker, who's the chief engineer, and Brett, who's the engineering technician, and they seem to kind of be segregated from the rest of the crew in terms of like who is employing them. It seems like they are maybe more freelancers who are kind of come with the ship or something. It's not entirely clear, but there's a bit of a distinction there.
Are they the ones who keep asking for more money?
Yeah. So they seem to be contracted in a different way to the rest of the passengers. So the Nostromo is a interstellar commercial towing starship. So it's basically like a big canal boat that is towing a massive automated oil refinery through space back to Earth, where as it's going, it's processing the oil that is attached to the Nostromo. So then when it reaches Earth, they're like, oh, we've got this oil for you. Here you go.
So do people live outside of Earth, or can they just now travel to other places and bring everything back to Earth?
Yeah, it's not really clear at this stage, like how it's working. I think they probably would have started to try and colonize other planets. Not really clear to me if any would have worked at this point. Often with sci-fi of this kind of nature, like they'll send out, or in fact, you will see this in Aliens. The colonial marines are sent out to deal with a alien presence where I think the colony has been basically wiped out by aliens. But I think that colony has been set up basically for the intention of mining a planet or a moon or something for its resources to then be shipped back to Earth. So Earth still seems to be kind of the core of the human
home base.
Home base, yeah.
Okay, so I kind of got it right. It was something boring.
Mm-hmm. So the Nostromo is on its way back to Earth, and then it stops in its tracks somewhat. And why does it do that?
Distress signal.
Yeah, so they receive a distress signal.
It wakes them up.
The ship wakes them up to be like, there's a distress signal.
Beep, beep, beep.
Yeah. And the Nostromo has like a part of the company's policy. So Whale and Yutani, who are the company that I think they're like this multi-conglomerate. They're probably like Apple or something, but in the future.
Boring.
You're bored.
No, just all the I don't know, corporate stuff.
Yeah, so I guess one of the themes of this, I feel like, is, as with a lot of sci-fi movies and stories of that time, is this kind of like capitalism run amok style thing, where in the future massive corporations are more powerful than countries, and the corporate interests are what are really motivating the way the world's working. So other obvious examples to me would be like Total Recall or Blade Runner, especially, where you have these mega corporations that, more powerful than countries. They're influencing the way the world works, be it with androids or with how we are colonizing the rest of the world. Like in Total Recall, they're colonizing Mars. So clearly back in the day, that was what was seen future looking, being like corporations are going to get out of control.
Well,
and 50 years later, we can confirm that they didn't. So good news, everyone.
Well, some of them are getting a bit out of control, but...
Yeah, so they receive a distress signal and they're told that they have to go. It's the company policy that they have to go investigate it. So,
which they're all very calm about, I have to say.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
they're all like, oh, that's so inconvenient. I don't want to go to this random planet where there could be aliens or humans and see what they're distressed about.
Yeah, well, the presumption at this time is that like no other forms of life or intelligent life or anything must have been discovered. Otherwise, you think there would maybe have been more of a reaction. Maybe they think...
But they've done all this space travel and haven't come across any aliens. I mean, you said the premise of the next one is that they have to go fight a bunch of aliens.
They're the same aliens.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine then.
Yeah. So they find this distress signal, which appears to be this giant kind of weird ring thing on a planet, which is odd looking.
And I kept saying, why are they going? Like, I couldn't figure out what planet it was because I didn't realize they were in some random solar system. I assumed it was our solar system, and I kept saying, why are Saturn's rings so small? Saturn's rings shouldn't be that small.
Yeah. Yeah, and
that was stupid.
You were very convinced it was going to be Saturn, and then even when I was looking it up, you were like, "There's no point in looking it up. It is Saturn." But do you think they were landing on one of Saturn's moons? Because isn't Saturn like a gas giant? I don't think you could even land
Well, exactly. That's why I was really angry.
Yeah.
That they were getting it so wrong, but really I was getting it very wrong.
So they go to investigate this
non-Saturn planet. They find what we discover is a spaceship. It appears to be. That's what the giant ring donut thing is. And yeah, trouble comes afoot from there. So that's really the premise. I don't think we can do any more. We did spoil the fact that there is an alien race in the movie Alien.
Yeah, sorry everyone. That wasn't a complete subversion of expectations. There doesn't happen to be an alien in Alien.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about the cast, because that is still spoily free.
Yeah, so the lead in the movie, Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, who is often cited, I suppose, in like cinema history as one of the, badass female characters and action heroes. I wouldn't say she's so much like the action hero, although she is very robust and capable in this movie. I feel Aliens becomes much more action heavy, which is when I feel like she really gets a chance to like embrace that type of action stardom that you maybe associate with like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone in the 1980s. But in terms of what the horror movie trope of a final girl is, Ripley is like super, smart, articulate. She doesn't like lose her head. She's the girl.
Is that the stereotype of a final girl, or because I just don't know horror that much?
The trope of final girl is just like the person who like survives at the end. And
more
it's
by
a girl.
chance than by.
Well, normally they have to be somewhat capable, I would say, but some are like more capable than others, I would suggest.
Yeah. Yes, she was remarkably not screamy, which I appreciated.
Yeah. So, what did you liked Ripley? You liked Sigourney Weaver's performance?
Yeah. No, I thought she was good. I don't really have any complaints. I thought that for the time, her character, I was not expecting that she would be the last one to survive.
Yeah.
I kind of thought the girls were going to be just like useless, screamy
killed immediately
people, and if she was the last to survive, it would be by chance.
Who did you think would be the last to survive? Dallas, the captain?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we can sort of run through the rest of the characters. So we have Dallas, the captain. He's played by Tom Skerritt, who seems to be, quite capable. He tries to take charge. Like, he volunteers to do things. And I feel like all of the cast, what is quite, like, compared to other horror movies and kind of slashers, which I suppose this would be pre any slashers even being a thing, perhaps. So sort of like things like Halloween, Nightmare Before Elm Street, is that the whole cast, none of them really make completely idiotic decisions throughout the movie. Like, they're all clearly totally out of their depth and ill-equipped and qualified to deal with the threat they're facing, but they're normally act in a pretty rational way, and ultimately most of them unfortunately perish because the alien is like designed to be a killing machine, and they aren't lucky enough to beat it.
Yeah. I guess the only times when... I mean, they do stay remarkably calm and collected, which I thought maybe too calm and collected, considering the situation. But there were a few times when I was like, why? Clearly the person who's on their own is the one who keeps getting picked off, so stop sending people off on their own.
But I suppose...
Like, they sent him off to go get the cat.
Well, I think he does that by him... Oh, no, I think they do...
The first, the cowboy guy.
Yeah, so that's Brett, played by Harry Dean Stanton, who apparently was in millions of movies. I was looking at his IMDb, he had tons of credits. I think he's in Red Dawn. I don't know if you would have seen that, the original Red Dawn. So, yeah, I would say he does, I guess, make a sort of silly decision by going off on his own. But
they tell him to.
Yeah, but at that point, they haven't seen the, like, full-grown alien. I don't think they, like, actually know, like, what threat they're facing at that point. The only person who's died at that point is Kane, who's the chief officer, who is the person who gets face-hugged and then chest-bursted, which are... terms not used in the movie, but have since sort of entered the popular nomenclature. So the facehugger, when they're investigating the ship that sends out the distress signal, they find the giant humanoid fossil thing in a seat, which in later movies in the Alien franchise, you find out what that is. But I think this movie is like kind of almost exemplary in the subtle world building it does, where there's very little exposition, but it's like there's definitely a story to be told as to how this ship got here, and based on what we were discussing, there's no... in the universe, they haven't encountered aliens or anything before. So, you could almost have made the movie being like, oh, we've found this abandoned ship and there's a giant human alien thing. What is that? Mm-hmm. But it's dead, and we presume it sent a distress signal out. So you're automatically like, what happened here?
Yeah. See, I didn't immediately assume that it sent the distress signal because it's a skeleton. So I assumed it had been dead for a while.
Yeah, well, I think... my reading of it is that it sent a distress signal, probably thousands and thousands of years ago, and it's just been going for like years and years and years, but no one has intercepted it yet.
Okay. I have some trivia about that scene?
Yeah. Sarah raised her
it?
hand there to give us the trivia.
So, during the movie, sometimes the director... Ridley Scott, he felt like even there were some scenes where he wanted everything to look so like massive and like the skeleton.
Yeah.
And when they first get off the spaceship, he wants like the planet to just look huge. And when he did it with regular people, adults, he didn't think that the scale looked big enough. So he used his children and put them in spacesuits for those kind of long shot ones where they're like exploring the planet and they find the skeleton. Those are Ridley Scott's children.
Ridley's Scottlettes.
Yeah.
Scott's tots.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, now I think you can tell if you watch back, they do kind of look a little bit misproportioned to what adults would be.
But I do think the scale is quite effective in that it gives us, really reinforces the sense that, like, humans as spacefaring creatures are relatively new at this, and they seem totally out of their depth amongst these giant structures and giant creatures. They look, totally helpless in comparison to how big what if they were to have encountered one of the, a non-perished one of those aliens? He could have just probably picked them up by the scruff of their neck and then swallowed them whole like a giant from Jack and the Beanstalk. True.
But do you think the difference in size between a child and adult, do you think it would actually make that much difference in these scaling? I mean, I guess
I presume he did it before and after, and
That's true.
He decided
That's
it made
true.
a difference.
Well,
so.
I have another one about that scene. So in the alien ship's egg chamber, which I'm assuming is where that big skeleton guy is.
They're in the room where the skeleton is, and then they find a hole, and that's when Kane goes down into the hole and starts looking at the eggs.
And that's where it all goes wrong.
Yeah.
Well, so apparently there's a bunch of lasers in that scene. There's a bunch of blue laser lights. And these were borrowed from The Who because the band was testing out the lasers for their next stage show the sound stage next door. And then they were like, those look cool. Can we use them for Alien?
I think I could actually hear Roger Daltrey singing Teenage Wasteland when that scene was happening.
That would be good.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my factoids with those scenes.
Nice. Yeah, that was interesting. Where we are now in the egg room, this is where Kane, who's played by John Hurt, he was a storied actor. He was in the original 1984 movie. He was the lead in that. He played Winston. He was also in Harry Potter, played Ollivander. He was in the V for Vendetta movie. He was in Doctor Who at one point. He was in loads of stuff. Fortunately, he's now passed away, as he did in the movie. So...
Too soon.
Yeah. It was 7 years ago. He is inspecting the eggs. He's like, ooh, look at this big egg. What's going on here? And then, watch out. A thing shoots out, goes right through his glass helmet, and then wraps around his face. And then the other two astronauts on the ship, on the alien ship, then extract him and are trying to take him back onto the Nostromo. And Ripley is saying, look, you're contaminated. I'm not letting you back on. That's the policy. If you were in the same position...
Smart woman.
You would do the same thing. And given what we later find out about Ash, who is the science officer, I think it's actually a quite interesting juxtaposition where he makes almost the kind of human decision to let them back on. Ripley, as much as, she's doing the right thing based on how the movie turns out, and in that moment you're like, oh my god, these people are going to die if you don't let them back onto the ship. You're just leaving them. It seems quite cold and callous thing to do, whereas the science officer just lets them back on, which you could see as being the wrong thing to do, but maybe a human in that situation would panic and be like, I need to save my colleagues and let them back on. What is interesting is Ash making this, what at the time you might think is the human decision, is actually an android. He's not human at all.
Beep boop.
Yeah. So
but it goes with his orders.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. So Ash is the science officer on the ship. He's played by Ian Holm, who is the person who plays Bilbo Baggins in the original Lord of the Rings movies.
Oh.
Yeah. He also played Frodo Baggins in a BBC adaptation of Lord of the Rings. I think it was a radio play in the 90s, which is why he got the role of Bilbo. So Ash replaced the previous science officer, Dallas tells us this, a couple of days before the Nostromo left. Dallas says, I think, that he'd done 5 missions with the previous science officer, and then before they left for this one, he was just replaced with this guy, Ash. And Ripley, we find out that Ash is the android, but Ripley, over the course of the movie, becomes more and more frustrated with him because he seems to be very unhelpful. He seems to he's more like intrigued and interested by the alien than trying to, solve the situation, which as an audience, you're like, wow, what is this guy doing? Maybe he's just a weird science guy who's just
he's too obsessed
alien.
with science.
Yeah, but Sarah was immediately suspicious of him, as she always is. Yeah.
I jokingly said, that guy's a robot. Yeah. And I did not mean it at all. And then he turned out to be a robot.
Yeah.
There's also, this is kind of skipping ahead, but in the same robot, when we find out that he's a robot, there's one cut that is like really bad.
Oh yeah, when he is being destroyed, right?
Yeah, it's like his head gets cut off and then it's laying there on the floor and the camera kind of zooms in on his decapitated head, which is clearly like not a real person.
Yeah.
And then it cuts, because he's about to speak, then it like recuts to him and then it clearly changes to the real person.
Yeah, and then I think it cuts back when he gets incinerated.
Yeah. Yeah, it looked very
which bad. Is totally like off its time. And I guess there are a couple instances where I think a lot of the movie looks really good. I think like the interiors of the Nostromo look really good, which I think, again, the kind of world building, a lot of sci-fi you might see is like really like, brightly lit ships. Like if you think of the start of New Hope, they're on that, the Rebel ship is like these big white corridors and everything. It's really brightly lit and looks really futuristic. Whereas the Nostromo is really dark and dingy
shabby
and horrible. Yeah. And I think that one, from a sort of horror movie perspective, it's like, real dark because space is dark. The only light sources are going to be artificial ones unless you're near a sun or something, or, our sun or a star.
Yeah, you would think for their circadian rhythms that they would have some way to imitate sunlight.
Well, I think they've given up on circadian rhythms with the cryo sleep.
That's true.
Yeah. That's like they just take some melatonin, then they're out for a couple of years. Yeah.
So the dingy interior.
Yeah, so and that sort of helps create the horror. Like there's a dingy, wet kind of feeling to it, like the organicness of the like alien and the practical effects they use to where it doesn't, as much as some of the alien scenes don't look great, some of the like key scenes, for instance, like the chest burster and the face hugger, it does almost look like a kind of like real creature.
Yeah. No, the chest hugger thing was nasty. Like when they were trying to cut it off and stuff, that looked really good in a gross way. Mm-hmm. And then
the bit where they cut it and then it like coils its thing like tight around the guy's throat.
Yeah,
I thought that was like very
that looks good. Oh, and that's when they first find out that its blood is acidic, right?
Yeah, because it starts going through the whole ship.
Apparently, the blood is acidic thing wasn't in the script originally, but then kind of, because we don't like actually see the alien. I think it's quite a bit into the movie when we get to this point. And apparently they needed a reason why they couldn't just like stab or just shoot the thing without it being just like a totally invincible monster. So having the blood be acidic meant that if they tried to do that, then it would just tear through their whole ship. And so that was it like wasn't a writer's idea. I think it was, I don't know, it was like an art person's idea to make it acidic.
It's a good explanation as to why they can't just immediately try and cut it off his face, but then
or just stab it. Oh, I guess because they want to keep it for
because if they cut it off his face like and it starts bleeding, then it's gonna disintegrate his face. But also I feel like they maybe didn't need to have that, because if that was the reason, because we, as I just said, we see the scene where they go to like cut it and it like tightens its coil around his neck, which is, it's kind of like, without saying anything, like threatening that it's going to strangle him if they try to do anything to
whatever, sacrifice him.
Yeah, well, they might as well have, because it eventually falls off Kane's face, and they're, happy days. They all go, they're like, let's have something to eat. And they're talking about how they're going to have, like, better food back on Earth and stuff. And then all of a sudden, something's not right, which Sarah, again, knew was going to happen. She predicted that Kane wasn't long for the world, and then that's when the famous chest burster scene happens, which I thought, again, was, like, pretty good.
Yeah.
Well done.
Apparently, so it's a common myth, apparently. Now, I'm not in the alien lore world, so I didn't know this was a common myth. Okay. But it's a common myth that the chest burster scene was done in one take. But apparently, it was actually done in 2 takes, because the first take, the, like, chest burster mechanism didn't break through his shirt like he was supposed to. But they actually kept that bit in the movie because right before it comes out, you can like see that you can't see me, so you can't see me demonstrating the movement, the bursting, but you can see something kind of like trying to get out of the chest before it bursts, and that was actually the first failed attempt at the chest burster scene. The other thing about that scene, so there's another rumor that the cast, except for John Hurt, didn't know what was going to happen in the chest burster scene. Now, this is false because in their script it did say something like something comes out of his chest, but they did try to keep exactly how this would happen, and like the blood splurting and stuff, they kept that under wraps so that the cast had like organic reactions to the blood and everything like squirting in their faces. And I guess they had some idea what was going on because apparently when they arrived to set, everyone was wearing like raincoats and stuff, and there were a bunch of shields up, I guess to prevent other people from getting blood and the liquid and stuff on them. But Tom Skerritt,
who plays Dallas,
said that he was the only one besides Hurt to know exactly what was coming, because he had been following the director around to learn about filmmaking, and so he had been present in one of the meetings where the chest burster scene was discussed in detail.
It's interesting. I mean, the fact that they didn't know what was happening and they did only like 2 takes, maybe they weren't even acting, maybe they actually thought he was getting killed.
Yeah. No, but it sounds... I mean, I thought that was one of the scenes that did look pretty good. But then immediately after that, the little alien, when it runs away, I think that's one of the worst looking parts of the scene.
Yeah, that doesn't look great. It really reminds me, I don't know, of Timon from Lion King, or like...
Well, it's clearly just like on wheels or something.
Yeah.
And doesn't make... Did I imagine it, or does it make a little noise like, whee, or something? Maybe I just had that in my head. Yeah, doesn't it do something like that?
I can't remember.
I don't know, I just thought it was kind of silly.
Yeah. It also kind of reminds me of, do you see Kim Possible?
Yeah, the rat?
Yeah.
The hairless?
I don't think it's a rat.
What is it?
It is a hairless.
Mole rat?
Yeah, maybe it's that.
Naked
Yeah.
mole rat?
Yeah, her like love interest's like pet mole rat. It reminded me of that a bit as well. Maybe that's too dated a reference for many of our listeners, or not dated enough for some of the others.
Yeah. That would be a good Halloween costume for us.
Yeah, very low effort on my part.
Well, me as well, because I've got the Kim Possible outfit that I...
You do?
Yeah, well, I mean, I have green cargo pants that I wear a lot, and like a black...
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, that's true.
But people have called it like a Kim Possible outfit.
Okay. I don't think I've ever been switched on enough to... I was just focused on the mole rat, clearly, when I was watching it.
But anyway, so yeah, the chest burster looks good.
Yeah, and prior to that scene, the movie's, quite slow-paced and is very focused on building tension. I mean, it's very laborious, even when they're, like, just very slowly landing on the planet, or calmly discussing how they're going to get the thing off Kane's face, or slowly moving about the alien ship. From that moment on, it really kind of, like, ramps up, because you're like, okay, someone's died. The stakes are clearly high now. Not only has someone just died, someone's just been, like, ripped apart in this, like, horrific way, and then the little meerkat alien scurried off. So what's coming next? There are scenes, of course, where, tension is, independently built, like, within the scene. But from that moment, your kind of adrenaline is up, I would say. Like, that's one of the first sort of hits of, oh my God, something's going on.
Yeah. I mean, I was expecting it.
Yeah.
But that's also, it's just such a cultural phenomenon of the chest bursty thing. And I have watched another Star Kid musical. So Star Kid there's a theater group who does parody musicals, and they do one called Starship, which is a parody of, I think, Alien and Starship Rangers.
Yeah.
Is it
Alien, Starship Troopers. Basically just 80s sci-fi, but in particular, I would say Aliens and Starship Troopers.
Yeah. And then in that, I think there is a kind of chest bursty puppet thing that happens as well.
Yeah, that scene's also parodied in Spaceballs. But
less
it's also
famously than Starship.
Of course, yeah. But it's very famous. I imagine a lot of people who haven't seen Alien would have at least know about that scene. If they knew nothing about Alien, they'd be like, oh, chest burster, Well,
if I heard the term chest burster, to be honest, I would not know what you were talking about.
Yeah. When you see the full-grown alien, one of the cool parts of its design, I mean, the design of it is awesome. I really like it. But it kind of has like a second mouth. Like, it's got its head and its mouth, and then a little sort of phallic-shaped mouth that can like shoot out. And that's what the little alien that runs away from like the chest burster like looks like. It's almost that plugged into the big alien's like mouth.
So gross.
Yeah.
And speaking of its phallic nature, apparently, now this doesn't sound true to me, but this was liked a lot. It was the #1 trivia fact on IMDb.
Don't give away where you get the trivia from. No one's going to listen to us anymore.
That's just one place I get my trivia from. But when it opens its outer mouth, you know how there's kind of some like sticky stuff that opens? Apparently that was made from shredded condoms.
Used?
I hope not. Ew, I hope not. But well, I guess it's like the right material, but just when I was
watching it, I wasn't like, wow, why do they use some shredded condoms there? I just thought, wow, that's an alien. That's a real life alien.
Yeah, or they were used to create the tendons of the jaws.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's, but
I mean, that would come to my head. I'm surprised other people didn't think of that, to be honest.
Just who thought of that?
Yeah.
Get your mind out of the gutter, props department.
So members of the crew start getting picked off. So the next one to go is the other engineer. We talked about this before. He goes to save the cat. But prior to this, I mean, you would say maybe he shouldn't go off by himself, but they haven't seen the full-grown alien at this point. And the only person who's been killed has been killed by the chest burster, which, they saw happen. At that point, they maybe just think the alien is that little thing, so they think anyone could handle it.
Well, is the alien not that little thing? Oh, they don't know that it's like grown so quickly, which is wild how quickly it grows.
Yeah, well, we come on to that. I think part of the thinking at that time was that aliens were meant to have like a very short lifespan, kind of more like insects or something here, like on Earth, or like a fly, which, I guess would make sense if it's meant to be like this perfect organism that like it can't have everything. It can't be like indestructible and also live like a really long time or whatever. I don't know.
Well, they could if they're further along in the evolutionary process.
Yeah. Well, they've not had time to evolve. They've been in those eggs for millions of years, just doing nothing, just waiting.
Oh, because they need an organism in which to implant.
Yeah. There's a sort of parasitical nature of them.
It's very weird.
Yeah.
But I don't if it's only the eggs on how did those eggs, did one alien lay all those eggs?
In Aliens, you see there's like an alien queen, but the origin of the eggs on that ship is explained in Prometheus.
Okay. Well, I guess one day we'll get to that, maybe.
Yeah. I would say apart from Aliens, all of the Alien sequels are of diminishing returns. Well, I say there's ones prior to Prometheus that are worse than it as well, but whatever. Yeah, again, maybe killed in a kind of stupid way in that he's like Luke trying to save the cat, but I would try and save the cat as well. Ripley, who's our hero, she tries to save the cat as well, but she does it.
I wouldn't try to save the cat.
You try to save the dog though.
Yes. Well, maybe I would. Well,
if it was your dog, you would.
Well, that cat has like 9 to 100 lives, I feel like.
Yeah.
How has it not been? Can the alien not?
I don't think the alien, it doesn't show any interest in it. I mean, you see the scene later in the movie where Ripley like leaves the cat behind by accident, and the alien, like, they clearly intend to show you that the alien looks like it's going to kill the cat, but then we come back to the cat and it's not been killed, so clearly the alien doesn't see it as a threat or something that it wants to kill necessarily. I'm not sure if that's like in Predator, which, as there's the Alien versus Predator movies, there's a bit of a link there. The Predator only kills things that it sees as like a threat because it's for sport.
Unless it did kill the cat, but then the cat just moved on to its next life.
That's true, yeah. Or maybe like it killed the cat but implanted something in it.
Yeah, that's also what I was thinking.
Cat bursted.
Ugh, gross.
Yeah. Then Dallas is sent to try and they think it's like moving around in the pipes using the plumbing. No, it's in the air vents. That was our Harry Potter reference for you all. They try to like fish it out of the vents, but just Dallas goes in and then eventually he gets hugged by it. And
you said there's a deleted scene where it shows that
he
and the other deceased have been implanted, even though we don't see it.
Yeah, there's a deleted scene later in the movie where before Ripley's about to evacuate the ship, where she comes across Dallas and the other guy who have been implanted with a bunch of eggs, and she basically mercy kills them with a flamethrower.
Yeah, I don't know why that was cut out. I feel like it kind of shows her like character, and I mean, I guess she's already proven herself, but I feel like that's like a kind of horrific thing to have to do.
Yeah, no, it is.
It's very
horrible.
Brave.
Yeah. Once Dallas goes, tension's really being to rise because there's only of the 7 original members. Now there's only 4 of them. So there's Ripley, the chief engineer, there's Ash, and the other woman character, who is, I would say, for as much as Ripley is maybe atypical in how women are depicted in horror movies of this time or whatever, the other character, Lambert, played by Veronica Cartwright, who I believe was actually going in for the role of Ripley and only found out when she turned up to set that she'd be given a different part.
Really?
Yeah. But she just went along with it anyway. She's like very kind of shrill and loses her head, and I think that's fine. It's just maybe you'd give it credit for giving Ripley a more, in the film industry, masculine role or whatever, which is cool. They then are like, oh well, we have to have this ultra feminine character who is basically completely loses her mind, doesn't do anything.
Yeah, no, I didn't like the character of Lambert very much at all.
I think it's kind of implied that she has a romantic relationship with Kane, which is John Hurt's character, so maybe she's, going through kind of PTSD after seeing her lover be ripped apart by an alien.
Oh, because they do go down together, don't they?
Yeah.
And then she's the one who wants them to let them back in.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, yeah, that was one of my comments, was that I feel like it's unusual to not have any kind of romantic interest.
Yeah, I was loving it.
Because I was thinking, well, first I thought, now this was one of my very bad predictions.
Sarah, I mean, we give Sarah a lot of credit for her predictions on the movie, but you don't understand when sitting next to her, it's like Sarah's got the dartboard in front of her, and Sarah's trying to hit everything on the dartboard. She's just chucking out theories left and right.
A lot of times I make jokes about people like getting together who I don't actually think would get together.
Yeah.
But so it's when Ripley walks into a room with Ash, and I, for a moment, thought it was going to be a kind of enemies to lovers thing.
She's been reading too much schlocky romantasy, and she thinks that anytime
two characters hate each other, they're going to end up together.
Yeah.
But then I was kind of thinking that Ripley and Dallas, because they were kind of the two kind of leads and most competent characters, I thought that maybe they would get together and would be kind of like the two remaining characters at the end of it. Mm-hmm. But then he just died.
Yeah. I kind of like the way, he was quite heroic and brave and stuff, but they just kill him. Like, there's no, he makes this grand sacrifice to save Ripley or anything, like, kind of tropey like that. Yeah. It's just, he is one of the 7. He's maybe a bit more competent, but, they hatch a plan, it doesn't work, he gets killed.
Yeah. I was not expecting that the first 3 people to die would be the 3 white men.
Yeah.
That was just unexpected, but good.
Yeah. So at this point, we're left with, well, still a white man, but actually not a white man, a white android.
Robot.
Yeah.
Robot.
Yeah, so we're left with Parker, who's the chief engineer, and I think there's a pretty good scene again where he's like sort of shouting. He's losing it a bit, and Ripley's trying to come together with like a plan, and he's kind of like losing his head, and she basically tells him to shut up.
Yeah.
and to listen to her, and I thought that was another good way of like establishing like her authority and her competency in the scene.
He was kind of a dick, that character, Parker.
Well, because he wanted more money.
No, I felt like the whole time he was just being antagonistic to Ripley and not following anything she was saying, which gave, kind of sexist vibes. And, and apparently, according to the trivia and according to the actor,
Yaphet
Kotto, according to him, Ridley Scott told him to annoy Sigourney Weaver off camera to then give authenticity between the tension between their characters, which to me sounds like just an unhealthy set. Yeah. And an unhealthy working.
Stuff like that seems to happen a bit more back in the day. I'm not saying it doesn't happen now, but yeah, there's famously for The Shining, Stanley Kubrick made Shelley Duvall's life hell to try and get a performance out of her where she looked like she was totally on edge, and yeah, I think it would be now called bullying.
Well, so I thought that was, but I think he did say that he really liked Sigourney Weaver. Mm-hmm. So he said it was a shame that he was told to do that because he wanted to be friends with her, but.
Yeah, the only other thing I've seen him in is he played the villain in the James Bond movie. He was in Live and Let Die.
Live and Let Die. Is that written for that movie?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
By Paul McCartney and his band Wings.
There you go.
Post-Beatles.
So anyway, where were we?
So at this point, the tensions are rising, and this is when Ripley's like, now Dallas is gone, I'm in command, I can speak to Mother. Mother is the AI, which is kind of like the link back to...
Yeah, I thought it was weird they called that Mother.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. I don't know.
At first I thought he was referring
it.
to like a mother ship or something. But I don't know.
Yeah. Well, so she starts talking to the computer. She has the access. She's like asking. I think she basically asks like, what is our mission? And she finds
Ripley
out that yeah. She finds out from Mother that the message from Weyland-Yutani, which is the corporation, is that their actual goal is to bring back the alien species. And the crew are considered expendable, to which she is like horrified. She then confronts Ash. They have a fight, and she wins, and he is revealed to be an android.
Robot.
Yeah. This is where there's a couple of... In some of the action scenes in this, so there's this and towards the climax, there's a couple of weird direction choices where it's kind of discombobulating and it sort of feels like one shot cut doesn't really lead into the next one.
Lack of continuity.
Yeah, which I'm not sure if that was something that's just because we've now developed a sort of style generally in modern filmmaking as how you do action, so I'm not used to seeing it like that, or maybe Ridley Scott was going for some sort of avant-garde kind of idea with it.
Or it was just done badly.
There's also that. I don't really remember that from my original viewing or whenever I last saw the movie, so there's a potential we saw some sort of whacked version on Disney Plus, but
yeah, well, I'm trying to think because Star Wars came out about the same time, right? I do feel like in the bad lightsaber fight scenes there are some cuts that I'm like, that looked kind of weird. So maybe that was either the style back then, or they just were still figuring out how to do action scenes in a way that looked continuous while still like building tension.
Yeah, I will say original Star Wars came out before this and was one of like the big inspirations for Ridley Scott to make it, along with 2001: A Space Odyssey, which we have differing opinions on the podcast. We don't need to go into that now. And I will say Star Wars, a lot of the exterior shots look much better in that than in this. I feel like a lot of I mean, Star Wars was probably using miniatures as well, but they're much more obviously miniatures, I feel like, when you see the exterior spaceships and things.
In this one?
Yeah, it's fine. It's just, you know, it is what it is. It's even more credit, I guess, to Star Wars for being able to make it look, even today, I still think it like holds up pretty well.
Sometimes.
So Ash is revealed to be an android. Sarah, that was one of Sarah's many predictions related to Ash. That one was right.
One of two predictions.
He is then burnt to ashes because he loses the fight.
Zing.
Yeah, and he's kind of like mercy killed by being incinerated with a flamethrower.
Is it mercy?
Yeah, well, maybe it's a sort of revenge.
If you're a robot, you can't really feel. Well, might be a big debate. Depends on how he was programmed.
Yeah. He certainly was dreaming of some electric sheep, I think.
Yeah, true.
I think the implication is that with Ash coming on board, that Weyland-Yutani have already discovered this distress call before the Nostromo is sent on its mission, because it doesn't seem like they would have time to talk to, or maybe they would. Yeah,
well, this is one thing that I was slightly confused about. Because it seemed like, based on what the robot said, that this was their mission like the whole time. But that wasn't entirely clear to me, because if this was their mission the whole time, why would they send them there on their way back?
Yeah. My understanding is that they must have already known, the company already has an interest in developing weapons and alien technology / just alien life forms.
This oil company has an interest in that?
I don't think they're explicitly an oil company. I think they do like a lot of things. In the alien lore, because it's called Weyland-Yutani, Weyland was a company and Yutani was a company, then they merged and became this super company.
So what do they do?
I think they do loads of things. They do space travel. I don't really know, but they do.
How does it all connect?
They probably develop weapons. That's probably the worst thing they do. I don't know.
And the aliens they want to use the alien as a weapon.
Probably, yeah. So that's why they're interested in it.
And so therefore, wait a minute.
I don't think they know the aliens are there. They just know there's something's there.
They want to try to find something that they think might be dangerous enough to use as a weapon. And they think the best way to get this weapon is to send a bunch of corporate people who don't know anything about fighting aliens or getting species and keeping them alive. They think the best way is just to send a bunch of amateurs out to hopefully get it.
They're expendable, I guess. Yeah,
That doesn't make any sense.
I don't think they know that there's an alien there. I think they just know something's there and they send them out, and there's already an order that in the event that an alien life form is discovered, the primary objective of the mission would become retrieve the alien species, and any other motivation becomes secondary to that, including the crew surviving.
But why would you not use people from the military who are already trained to just follow orders?
Well, we will see in Aliens that the people in the military are not much more use than Ripley. In fact, they're much less use than Ripley. But
all right,
so I don't know, maybe they saw potential in Ripley. They thought, she's the one to do it.
It just seemed like a weird choice of people for this mission.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is, this is all being implied. Like, they don't explicitly tell you that in the movie. At no point do the characters go, I guess they knew about it all along. Our assumption is that.
We see the mission. The mission comes up, and then it's like crew expendable or whatever.
Yeah, but I think that's, maybe you could argue, is like a predetermined mission in the event they encounter alien life forms. It doesn't look of any sort.
Okay. So we don't know if it was predetermined.
Yeah.
Or as a result of.
Yeah, so like Ash is like pre-programmed to be like, if we encounter alien life forms, that becomes my primary goal, is to recover it.
But Ash was specifically chosen for this mission, whereas they previously had a probably non-robot person, which makes me feel like they were intending this mission to recover the alien.
So that's where my understanding, or I think the implication, is that they already know that the Nostromo is going to intercept this distress signal. So the Nostromo does not discover the distress signal as we are made to believe in the movie. It's already been discovered, and they are being sent on this kind of journey to discover something that's already been discovered.
Well, it seems like a poor plan to me, but
yeah. I mean, it's. I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe that's flashed out in some of the sequels or the prequels as to why the Nostromo is specifically used and why the crew of that nature are specifically used.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at this point,
Ash is dead. We're down to just Barker and Lambert and Ripley. This was where it became like a bit like Deus Ex Machina, where it's like, we need to do something with the coolant. I was a bit like, I'm not really sure what's going on here. Ripley's just going off by herself. Yeah, like they
needed the coolant for the escape pod, right?
Yeah. I did like that they had escape pods, but not enough for everyone, which is why they couldn't just immediately evacuate.
Titanic.
Yeah, true. They should have learned in the future.
That's true.
Yeah.
Why would they not have enough escape pods for everyone? I think, how many people did they say could fit on that? That thing was big enough to hold 4 people or whatever.
It can carry the weight, but it doesn't really make sense.
The weight?
Yeah.
It's a spaceship.
Yeah, because it also has an extra alien on at the end, which I don't know how much that weighs, and it was okay. True. So Parker and Lambert are given a flamethrower to try and take it down. They do come face to face with the alien, and Lambert has her moment where she just basically freezes in terror and gets them both killed. I mean, they probably would have died anyway, but
ridiculous. But I don't think they're going out there with the intent to kill the alien. They just want to grab the coolant and go. Yeah,
they're doing something else related to the escape pods as well, actually. But they do have a flamethrower.
Yeah, they're getting all the coolant they can get while she's prepping the...
Yeah, Ripley's doing something or other.
Pod.
Yeah.
Saving the cat.
Mm-hmm. So then those two get killed. Ripley is running about with Jonesy, leaves Jonesy at one point when she comes face to face with the alien, then comes back and gets Jonesy, and then she gets on the escape pod and we're out of here.
But are we?
So there's an additional scene at the end where an alien, I'm not really sure how the alien, or if it's even the same alien, I assume it is the same alien, gets onto the escape pod without Ripley knowing that.
There is only one alien, right?
Yeah, I think so. Unless you could say that like other ones had hatched from the previous cast members who have been killed at that point, but I don't think they have.
Because I didn't really understand how it would have gotten onto the pod.
Yeah, I kind of missed that in terms of I was watching it and then suddenly I knew the alien was going to be on the escape pod and then I was like, wait a minute, how did it get there? I didn't see it climb down the ladder with Ripley, so...
Yeah, I mean, it is a sneaky little thing. But so maybe there were multiple, and maybe it was that one was there like chilling out and hiding for like a while.
Possible, yeah. Apparently, I read somewhere that this was originally it was just going to be Ripley escaping, and then they got extra budget to do this sort of second ending where Ripley has an additional fight scene with the alien on the escape pod. I did think it was quite effective in that if you were sitting in there in the cinema, you have no idea how long the movie's been going on for or whatever. You'd be thinking, well, she's escaped the ship, and then being like, oh my god, the alien's there as well. Like,
but that's classic in horror movies where you think everything's fine, and then there's like a sudden jump scare at the end.
That's true, yeah. But that wasn't so much a sudden jump scare. That's like, oh my god, like, yeah.
Yeah. And apparently Ridley Scott thought that the ending was too simple, her just like escaping. So he negotiated an extra $500,000 budget and a week of filming to add this fourth act and showing how the alien stowed away in the shuttle. So I guess it is the same alien, it sounds like. But his vision for the ending... Yeah,
so apparently his original idea for how it was going to end was that the alien would bite Ripley's head off and then deliver a voice message back to Earth using Ripley's voice, which sounds totally crazy. That's like the ramblings of a complete madman, I think. I mean, I'm trying to think of that happening in the movie, and I just think people would have been like, what the is happening?
Yeah. Why? Yeah, in some ways, I kind of like it because it's very bizarre, but I like that she survives.
Oh, I like Ripley surviving. Yeah, I mean...
No, but I'm saying in some ways, like...
You like the alien surviving.
Yeah, that... Just like him sitting in her chair and being like, This is
Ripley.
Or wait, no... He pretends to be Captain Dallas. That was the initial plan.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so he then pretends to be like Captain Dallas and like, Captain Dallas signing off.
That's even more stupid, I think.
But so apparently the studio, so 20th Century Fox, was not happy with this ending. And they like threatened to fire Ripley unless he changed... Ridley. Unless he changed the ending to one where the alien died. So the studio wanted the alien to die.
Yeah, and keeping Ripley alive allowed them to do sequels with her. I don't know if that was the plan at the time because they didn't... I think Aliens comes out 7 years after Alien, which
Isn't it a different director?
Yeah, so James Cameron did that, one of his first initial big movies. And Aliens is much more action focused, so there's not the same tension building of one alien coming around. There's many aliens.
I think I probably, based on what I know, would like Alien more than Aliens.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit of a back and forth where some people are like, I like Alien more, I like Aliens more. But I'm going to say, I'm going to deliver the gospel to you. Alien is better, and I won't hear anything else.
Well, I guess if you're more of an action movie person, then Alien, which is more kind of horror-y than action, would be more...
Yeah, I just think Alien is like a more unique film, whereas Aliens is, similar to Starship Troopers, or it's similar to like other action sci-fi movies of that time.
Ooh, I have another fact I forgot.
Oh, yeah?
But I'm not sure if this is for Alien or Aliens or one of the other Alien movies.
Okay.
But I watched a reel or something showing the making of an Alien film.
This is for Alien 3, because I remembered Sarah. But you tell it, Sarah.
Okay, so this is for Alien 3, apparently. But I guess they took to heart that the little mini alien looks very silly in its movements. And so they had the alien in Alien 3, I suppose. A lot of the scenes they filmed using a dog as the alien, and then they just... Well, first I think they tried putting the alien head on the dog, but the dog didn't like that very much. So then they just put part of the head on, but kept it open, and... I think the director said that because having the open helmet meant that they could only use the dog in scenes where it was like running away. And to be honest, it still kind of looked like a dog.
Yeah, I think... I'm not sure because I haven't seen Alien 3, but the alien species in Alien is called a xenomorph. It can implant into different species of creatures, and the resulting alien that comes out is different.
No, I was wondering that because I was thinking if it implanted into a cat, would little cat aliens come out?
Yeah, so there definitely is... You do see in one of the Alien movies like a sort of more quadrupedal alien as opposed to like a more humanoid looking one.
Played by Doggo.
I'm not sure if it's in that one or if they were just trying to get the alien, like a humanoid alien, to look like it's running on all fours. And
it definitely doesn't look very human-like.
No. Another bit of dog trivia for you is that for Jonesy the cat, for his acting, they were trying to get Jonesy to hiss and look scared of the alien, so they couldn't get it to work with the alien, so they got a German Shepherd to do it. So they had a German Shepherd like behind the screen, and then they would drop the screen, and then the cat would like react to it.
Oh, so the cat was reacting to a dog,
Yeah.
but it wasn't afraid of the alien.
I guess not, yeah. Braver than me,
Yeah.
little Jonesy.
I always wonder with that, because a lot of times you'll have to put an animal under some amount of distress in order for it to, like, act
Yeah.
that way, which seems like a little bit,
Mean.
yeah,
Yeah.
not moralistic.
Yeah, I mean, obviously
Immoral.
there's like trained dog actors. Not moralistic.
Immoral.
Is that one word? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Jonesy's in a better place now, I'm afraid, so we can't ask him. But Jonesy was actually played by 4 different cats as well.
Wow.
I hope all 4 cats got the royalties split equally.
Unless they had different amount of filming times.
Yeah. Don't you think it's crazy? Like, you could be, a lot of actors, they work their whole careers to try and, build themselves, and maybe they have lots of talent and they just don't get the recognition or the career that they deserve. And then some random animal, like Jonesy, can be played by some cat that doesn't know what's going on, and it becomes a Hollywood star,
Well, I think they use animals that are very well trained. For a while, I wanted to be... because I love animals, and I wanted to go in a kind of animal psychology, animal training route, and I thought
I think it's called animal whispering.
Animal whispering, yeah, sure. But that's like one of my dream jobs would be like Hollywood animal trainer. Although I'd imagine at times it's kind of stressful, especially if your animal is not acting on set the way you hoped they would.
Yeah, apparently horses are like really difficult, especially like I was reading something about Lord of the Rings, and they were saying like...
Well, they use hordes of horses.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and to get all of them to do the right thing on command is like super annoying.
Yeah, and I feel like if that went wrong, like someone could easily get trampled.
Yeah, they got all those swords and spears and magic flying around. I mean, what things that could go wrong is endless.
Yeah.
One of the things I did think it's a bit weird that the alien is in the escape pod and doesn't just attack her immediately.
Yeah.
Because they have to do that to build the tension of it being revealed to you, but...
Yeah, I was confused about that as well, but then I was like, I think it's just tired. It's taking a little nap.
So... building on what I said earlier about the sort of short lifespan, that's the explanation I've seen, is that the alien is like dying at this point in its death throes. So it's kind of like resting. It's like, time to die now. And then it's like, wait a minute. No, well, that was what apparently Ridley Scott's working assumption was at the time. I think that's maybe been retconned a little bit in that nowadays the aliens aren't thought of to have such a quick lifespan. But at the time, that's why it doesn't attack her immediately. It was because they were thinking that it was dying.
But because the alien skeleton they find is so much bigger than that one is at the end.
That's a different species of alien. You find that out later.
But the eggs,
yeah.
That's a different...
The eggs aren't of the species that's dead. Spoilers for Prometheus.
Oh. I was thinking maybe it's like a goldfish where it grows to the size of the container it's in, but it's just a different species.
We learn in Prometheus that the thing you see at the start of Alien is another alien race called the Engineers, or that's what they're dubbed in the movie, and they create the aliens as like a bioweapon. And then the aliens kill them. So
and then they're killed by the weapons they create.
Yeah, which is, again, another classic sci-fi trope. But that's why they're so, I guess their way of living and stuff is so weird. Like, they're not naturally occurring creatures.
Those aliens keep its skeleton there as a shrine to themselves.
Well, the aliens aren't really, they don't know what's going on. They're just little eggs. They've been down there for thousands and thousands of years. I wonder what has a better shelf life, those eggs or British eggs. Boom, we've gone full circle.
It depends if they've been washed or not.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of salmonella in those cuticles of those alien eggs.
Probably pretty cold on there too, like being in a refrigerator.
What do you think the protein content of a alien egg is?
How big are the eggs?
They're pretty big. There's like a human head size.
And if they've been
bigger than that.
How is the lifespan of the aliens so tiny and the lifespan of the eggs so long?
Yeah. I don't know. Well, maybe it's really cold in that. They're basically like refrigerated. They're in
That's
cryo
what
sleep as well.
Oh, cryo sleep. Is that a real thing?
I think in theory it could work. Well, I mean, the theory is that Walt Disney did that. And then they made the movie Frozen to stop when you Google search Disney Frozen, it just coming up about Walt Disney being cryogenically frozen. That's the theory.
Yeah. Can you explain that theory more?
Yeah, so the theory is that for a long time, I mean, there's a lot of things that are said about Walt Disney. I think some of them may be true and they're not super flattering on his behalf, and some maybe are not. One of the things that I've heard is that Walt Disney was, quite conscious of his own mortality and looking for ways to extend his own life, very much like a certain Lord Voldemort. And
Made Horcruxes.
The idea is like in sci-fi movies where people go into like cryo sleep, where it involves like freezing their bodies so they don't like decay and they're able to stay asleep for extended periods of time. Apparently that was done to Walt Disney, and he's gonna, one day when they've worked out how to do eternal life, he's been woken up and they're gonna give him the fountain of youth or whatever.
Right. So when people would search Frozen,
Disney Frozen,
Disney Frozen, then it would be like about Walt Disney freezing himself, and Disney, the company, didn't like that. So they came up with the movie Frozen and named the movie Frozen. So now when you search Disney Frozen, it's no longer about this maybe wackadoodle theory.
Yeah, because Frozen is like the Hans Christian Andersen Snow Queen story, right? That's what it's based off. So you would have thought they just called it the Snow Queen, but why else would they not call it that if they didn't want to try and
protect their frozen king?
Yeah. Is that just a theory? Who knows? But it's a nice story, and that's what really matters. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Right. Maybe one day our grandchildren's grandchildren will find out when Disney makes his return.
Yeah, and they'll be listening to us on this episode. They'll be listening to this, our saying the theory, and think, wow, my great-great-grandfather, that he knew all along, and the world wouldn't listen.
Now here we are.
Oh yeah, and the movie ends with Ellen Ripley shooting the alien out the airlock.
Right. Does it die?
Well, it sounds like it was dying anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay.
You'd assume so.
Right, because I wasn't sure if in these other movies it's like still this one alien who then starts creating other baby aliens, but I guess there's all those eggs still to...
Well, she shoots it out and it's like holding onto the ship, and then she has to have it like get hit with the coolers or something. She still has to like fight it, and I almost felt a little bad for the alien at that point. It was like just clinging on to life as much as it could. You know? Yeah.
Does she then get picked up?
She then goes into cryo sleep because it's on its way to Earth, and then I think it takes her like 50 years to get back to Earth.
Does she have enough coolant?
We'd hope so. That's when Aliens takes place, when she wakes back up.
Oh, well, so then she does make it.
Yeah.
Spoiler, I guess. All right, well, we have now been recording for an hour and a half.
Yeah, who knew that would have happened? I thought it was going to be a short blast.
No. A lot to dissect in this Alien movie. And that's only the first one.
Maybe we'll come back and do a review of Romulus if we ever see it.
True. Although I would be behind in my Alien knowledge leading up to it.
Yeah. Here's my quickfire reviews of the other Alien movies that I've seen, which is 2. Aliens, pretty good. Not as good as Alien. Alien Covenant was kind of critically panned when it came out. I still kind of liked it, but it's also not as good as Alien, and it's not as good as Aliens, but it was alright.
Well, there you have it. And my overall review is that I think upon reflection, I liked it. And I didn't find it very scary, which is a good thing for me. Yeah, it was it made me feel like maybe I should watch more monster movies.
Ooh.
This would be considered like a monster slasher? Is that a thing?
I think so. I mean, the term monster movie comes kind of from more like old Hollywood with like Frankenstein and Dracula and things of that nature. But yeah,
but it's a monster.
That would have been more of a modern touchstone probably for Ridley Scott to be like, I want to make a modern monster movie. It's set in space, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I thought it was good.
I think I sort of hold it in like high esteem as being like a sort of, you know, a classic 10 out of 10. I think it maybe doesn't.
I don't know if I'd give it 10 out of 10.
Yeah, like I would put it up there with like, you know, like Psycho and The Shining and Silence of the Lambs, like these other sort of seminal horror movies. I don't know if I still think it's as good as that, but still very much recommended by us at Popcorn and Cumin.
Yeah, go rewatch it for your Halloween season.
Yeah. Happy Halloween, everyone.
Ooh. And welcome back after our hiatus.
Yeah, we'll be back next week talking about Halloween Town High.
Maybe. That would be good. And remember, now that we're back, to follow us on our Instagram, on our TikTok.
Yep.
Just search Popcorn and Cumin. Yep. We should come up.
Yeah. Sarah's still being hounded regarding the pink marshmallow.
Yeah, so. The pink marshmallow.
She lost that battle. But we'll win the war.
Yes. I'll come back fighting about these eggs. And don't forget to have your daily bowl of popcorn.